name's Ian Wright. You might know me best as a footballer. And I hope I'm someone who's always tried to do his best for club and country. But the thing I'm most proud of is just being a dad. In many ways, I've been lucky, but it's not always been easy. Growing up, our home was not a happy one. There was a lot of violence. I only recently started talking about this.
Life at home for you when you were little was obviously incredibly difficult.
Anything would happen, I'd get a smack or I'd get a clip or something would happen. So when I was younger, growing up, you know, I was a very angry and confused little guy.
I spent 50 years trying to avoid what's happened.
There was one time, my mum, her eye was like, under here, it was just cut. She said he punched her.
But now I've decided it's time to go back, to put the pieces of my childhood together, and to see what others have gone through.
I'd be sitting having my breakfast sometimes, he'd just come in and punch me. I'd be eating cornflakes and the next time on the floor.
In the UK, in the last year, 1.6 million women experienced domestic abuse. And in 90% of domestic abuse cases, there's a child present.
My daughter remembers one time where he was strangling me, had me over the banister. Always used to promise her that I'm gonna get us out of it, you know what I mean? But I just didn't know how.
I want to understand the impact this kind of childhood can have on kids growing up now and on the adults they will become.
You were a child, you had no choices then. You were trapped. You're not trapped any longer.
I'm nervous about doing this, but it's something that needs to be done. What's V? V is very, very...
Yeah, very, very extraordinary. These ones.
Which one is it? What are we talking about?
The odd one out. No, it's this one, because it has this one and this one.
Yeah. Do you think it's E? Sometimes I do think when you've had a childhood like I've had, where it's been very chaotic, how that affects you when you get older. How that continues to affect you all the way through your life. I've seen a lot of battering around the house in respect of my mum and my stepdad fighting, and they still with me.
I can feel your heart.
I know. I was about to on trampoline.
I think it's brilliant that Ian is going to go and do this, because a lot of people don't face up to situations or issues that they have within themselves. They always bury it under the carpet, or they don't deal with things.
It seems like you get stuck emotionally with things that's happened when I was a child.
So how are you feeling about this?
I don't know. I'm just ready to go and just see where it takes me.
But now you have a nice family and I feel like food.
But now you have a nice family, and she's finished all her food, what she said.
Yeah, which is a first. I was trying to explain that I have got a nice family now. Everything is perfect now and wonderful. And sometimes I feel sad.
It's never nice to think about a child being scared or lonely, and it's, you know, it's kind of very emotional to see him experience those things.
Sometimes I feel like everything's so nice. It's not...
You've got to somehow make it not go well, because they can't always be happy. Because they're used to things being not happy. You're a bit worried when things are going so well,
like
and you
Christmas.
feel so happy.
Remember how Christmases and birthdays used to be?
Yeah, still a bit better though.
I don't know why I continue to get dragged back to some very negative and horrible feelings, and certain things can trigger it. I want to understand why I feel like I felt for many, many years.
You go down there.
One of the memories I have more than anything else is him covering my ears. And what I want to find out from him is exactly why he was doing that. The thing is, there's certain times where there's things I just get really down about, and I don't know, I'm upsetting people that I'm close to and stuff like that. And I think it's just, I don't know, it's overflow from that stuff that's not been put to bed. When you used to cover my ears and that, why was you doing that?
So you didn't hear me?
What were they doing?
Well, he's giving her a strap, man, look.
Was he beating her up? Was it in that room, Mo?
He was giving her an iron. And then I'd look at you, I remember we were in a bed like that. And I'd let him know that I think I'm sleeping. So I'll just lie down and sort of cover your ear like that, so you don't hear.
It's really weird, because all I remember is that when you was covering my ears, of course you're trying to protect me. It was so confusing, man. I remember one time when he held her up against the wall, because how small she was. And then I'm going into the next room, and when you can hear her saying, sorry. Remember when she used to say so? And so those things stay with you.
Oh, so you saw it like that as well? You saw it?
Yeah, man, I saw that, Mo. And the thing is, you think to yourself, is she going to be okay? Because she's so small. And I remember seeing that, and I literally froze.
I know what you're saying now, man.
The only thing I'd say to you, Mo, is that when we was younger, there was a long time where it was just us.
Yeah.
It was just us, man.
I keep thinking that, but I didn't know you remembered all that shit.
Nah, man, it was just us.
Yeah, I remember that.
You know what I mean? What you meant to me at that time, I can't even put into words. As a bigger brother, you done it, man. You done your stuff for me. Nah, come on, man. You did it, bro. What you done through that time is, I can't thank you enough.
All right, man.
I'll see you, bro.
See you later, bro.
I'll see you soon.
Love you, man.
I love you.
Later.
That conversation's bringing a lot of memories back. Some are just fleeting, but others are as vivid today as they were 50 years ago. All I felt when I was 9 was anxious and scared, if I'm gonna be totally honest. Once you got back into the house, I don't know what mood he was going to be in, my stepdad and that. You know what I mean? You know that you're going to see something horrible or hear something horrible. There was one time her eye was like, under here, it was just cut. She said he punched her. I remember that he grabbed my mum's neck, because she was so small. And it's something that just made me feel so helpless, to see her so helpless. And she was trying to say sorry while he had his hand around her throat. Even when I was going to bed, just could not get the memory of how helpless she was. You know, me and my stepdad was in the same room. He'd just look at me, and I'd be sitting there, and he'd just say, move from me. Say things like, I can't stand him. I always remember, like, just hating him so much, but feeling so scared of him, because he was so big. His voice was so growly. My stepdad left our home when I was a teenager, and we didn't stay in touch. And my mum is now too unwell and frail to take part in this film. But she supports me in trying to find a way of making peace with what happened to her and what happened to me. To do it properly, though, I need to go back to where it all began. Merritt Road, Brockley, in South East London. This is the first time I've been back since we left in 1973. We shared a house with another family. And me, Morris, my mum, my stepdad, all lived together in one room. See, there it is, look. Wow, oh, God. It looks so much smaller. I remember their bed was here. This fireplace were in here. Television was there. Me and Morris, we had a kind of we had a kind of a Z bed here, and there was a kind of a orangey kind of wallpaper, funny kind of patterns on it. You know, I remember him having her up against there. I remember having her up against there. We were crying. We were both crying. I was crying. You know what I mean? And that's when Morris would try and cover my ears. All I remember is being afraid to turn around. You know, a lot of shouting. You know what I mean? A lot of thuddy noise, a lot of grabby stuff going on here. You know, the thing is, when you look at it, and when I try to think, I literally can't see past the wallpaper. I can't see past it. I love Match of the Day so much. Match of the Day was everything. When that theme plays, it takes me back to that time. But back then, when my stepdad would come home, it'd make me turn away from the TV and face the wall when it was on, just because he could. I remember just the music of Match of the Day. And to listen to the music and hear the Match of the Day is on and you can't watch. It was torture. When you'd have to turn around from the TV, I remember being close to the wall. It's just so unnecessary and just cruel. When I was like that, you know, I knew that some of the times he's watching, because I remember if you turn round to look, he'd shout you down. So it was really horrible. So I felt like, and it's why it made me cry so much. Because I remember I didn't like being so close. When you're that young, it hurts. It hurts. My stepdad did some terrible things to me and my mum, but what made it worse was that my mum also took it out on me. She regularly beat me. But it was the things she said that really hurt. What does come back to me, it was here, it was at this house, when my mum told me about termination. She just terminated me. She didn't just say the word. She said, "Ian, I wish I'd terminated you." But she said it a few times to me. I knew what it meant. I remember I used to shout, "Well, why didn't you then?" I used to run out the house. When you're hearing something like that said, 8-year-old, 9-year-old, that your mum don't want you, it's gonna cause you a problem when you get older. this war doesn't realise what it's done to me in my life. Oh, God. I'm staying, making sure my back's towards it. God. There's no love here, that's for sure. Facing up to those memories has made me want to do something I've never done before. Talk to others who've been through similar things.
So my stepdad used to drink, and then the more he drank, the more unreliable his behaviour was. And so you never knew what was going to happen, whether it was like a physical thing on me or whether it was something that would happen on my mum.
Charlie Webster's a journalist and an advocate for children growing up with domestic abuse. Can you remember your first childhood memory, one where you thought, that's really horrible, this is horrible?
I'd come back from school and I'd memorise exactly where the house made the noise so that my presence wasn't noticed. Then, I don't know, then I can make him less angry or he won't do these things to my mom. But to be honest, like the physical stuff, it wasn't that to me, I think, that affected me. It was the constant emotional abuse. What happened to me wasn't my fault.
Yeah.
And that was a big thing that I had to work out. It wasn't your fault. I was just a child. They were adults, you know, and that's why domestic abuse is so damaging to children because, you know, we have no choice. We were children.
Charlie's helping to push through changes to the law around children experiencing domestic abuse. The new bill is due to be passed by Parliament this year.
Children weren't even recognised or included in the legislation around domestic abuse. It's so important that we recognise the damage it does to children, and it's long-term.
1 in every 5 children experience some form of abuse by the age of 16. It's outrageous that at the moment the laws around domestic abuse don't even acknowledge the impact on children. Charlie's invited me to meet 2 other people.
I'm good, thank you.
Jess works for the NSPCC, and Paul is a florist.
Paul, I wondered if you could tell Ian what it was like for you. You know, it was your dad that was abusive to you and your mom.
I'd be sitting having my breakfast sometimes, he'd just come in and punch me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I'd be eating cornflakes and the next time I'm on the floor. He abused me in every possible way, made me feel horrible, weak, pathetic, and like I didn't deserve to be alive half the time.
Yeah, what was some of the things that he used to say to you?
Oh, you're a mistake. Yeah. You shouldn't be here. You're worthless. You're stupid. How can, you know, even though he wasn't exactly brilliant himself or anything, like anything I couldn't do, we magnify it.
Yes.
I mean, my dad used to talk about football and cheer for the opposite side, and I was a goalkeeper.
You're joking.
No. And if the ball went in, he would laugh. And all that does is tear you up inside. He would do stupid things like degrade my mum in front of me.
Yeah.
And I wish I was stronger. I could have stopped that, and I could have...
You're a child.
You still think it.
I know you do. Me too. I feel the same.
Did they say stuff to you, your parents?
So it was my real dad. He would abuse my mum physically, sort of more than me and my brother. But for him, it was all about these mind games and control. It was like you'd sort of sit in the house and he wouldn't be in the room with you as such. He'd be on the other side of that wall looking through the hole that you drilled through the wall. So you wouldn't be able to move anywhere in that house without being watched. Because I didn't know it was abuse, I didn't know it was wrong, I didn't know that anything could be done because I just thought it was me and I deserved it. He would detail to me over and over and over again how he'd kill my mum, and it was all about how at this point, she had sort of left and we were going through like custody battles and things like that, and it was a case of, well, if I can't have the kids then she's not having them, and that either meant he was going to kill us or he was going to kill my mum. A few years later, when I was 18, we got a knock on the door, and we hadn't seen or heard from him for about 3-4 years. And it was the police, and they asked if we knew who he was. And he was being charged for attempted murder on his partner at the time.
I still have nightmares. I don't think anyone would believe half the stuff that went on, but listen to you, Jess.
That's what I'm saying. I'm listening to mine. I'm thinking to myself, oh, my God. Again, I'll get into that place where I'm thinking, You're acting like you're a victim. People have gone through some serious stuff just
But so
listening to
have
you two.
Yeah.
But so have you.
No, that's
and
serious.
But you're not
Jesus.
acting. What is acting like a victim? Like I don't like. What is that? You're not acting like a victim. We're talking about things that happen to us, and it's really important. Because acting like a victim, what is that? I was a victim of domestic abuse. Does that? What am I acting like a victim by talking to you about it?
Yeah.
Am I?
No.
No, neither are
not,
you.
no.
But I do wonder if I just tapped someone on the shoulder one day, someone kind, who looked kind, and said, I don't want to go home today because my mum's going to get beaten up. And I don't want to have that Saturday night at home when my mum land on the floor. Why didn't people help? People would... If my next-door neighbour started walking around with bruises, I would notice it.
You know, when I was younger, I used to actually sometimes think, am I with the wrong parents? Is my real parents? My real parents. My mum, because my mum disliked, she's always spoke about how much she dislikes me. I genuinely used to think, one day someone's going to knock the door and said, can we have our son back, please?
We've tried this as an experiment. It hasn't worked.
It hasn't worked,
Come
yeah.
on.
Because, and the only reason why I think that is because of what she used to say. So I used to feel like, you know, maybe...
How could you give birth to me and say this?
Yeah.
When we think of domestic abuse, right, it's like an incident or it's this, like, physical thing. But actually what the damage is exactly what you were talking about, that, you know, and you've been talking about that emotional abuse, it getting in your head, telling you that you're not good enough, but the control element around it as well. Like, even your stepdad just staring at you. Like, it's like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? How does it make you feel?
To be able to speak about it now and feel like there's other people who have gone through it, and it makes me feel a little bit lighter. I'm totally knocked sideways to find out it's not our fault, you know. We are victims. My mum, I absolutely adore and love her. And then, you know, there's times when I totally hated her, but she's... And I don't know how I feel, and I didn't know how I felt. It's so complex. I think I need to talk to a professional to try and understand why the things I saw and experienced have had such a lasting effect. So I'm going to see Dr. Nuri Jean Koss. She's a consultant psychiatrist and trauma specialist for adults. She works at the Maudsley Hospital in South London.
Hello. Come in.
How are you?
Nice meeting you. This is a squeezy bowl. So what I do normally is when I need to talk to patients, I ask them to use what I call grounding techniques.
What do you mean? So when someone...
They get fidgety, they move their legs out, and you're not aware of it because it's the body doing it.
A lot of my kind of the major things that I remember that makes me feel sad is some of the things my mum used to say. I've been thinking about mum a lot, and it takes me to the nastiness. So while I'm trying to have that caring feel, it's like something's there saying, remember this, remember when you did this, remember. And and it's like fighting the saint and the devil on your shoulder.
And that's a normal reaction. That's a trauma reaction. The worst betrayal in a life is your mother, is your parents. That's the worst that can happen. You don't expect that. You expect unconditional love. And when you betray that person to that degree, not once, not twice, it creates a different personality, a child who needs to survive.
What about what she said? Because I learned what the word termination meant because my mum was the first person to say that word to me. And she used to tell me on a daily basis that she hated me.
Well, that would be considered severe emotional abuse. That would be considered clinically severe emotional abuse. But you're a grown-up man. And that is the difference. You were a child, you had no choices then. You were trapped. You're not trapped any longer.
But it makes me feel sadder.
Yeah, I understand, because you never had what you needed from her. And it touches the part that still wants to have a mother.
Sometimes I feel like I think about it too much. Like it's something I can't control.
Okay, you then go back to the child part of you.
Yeah. But no, I go to the anger part of me, Nuri, because when the anger
how old
comes...
is that anger part?
Huh?
Teenager?
I think it's probably the guy who used to be, what, 9, 10?
Oh, there you are.
As a child.
Yeah. A child cannot run your life. So what would
So the anger part is a 9-year-old.
That's what you're telling me, and that's what it is. It's stuck there. So what do you think that 9-year-old would like to have?
Love.
Great. How would that child would like to have love? How? By being hugged? By
yes, tactile love.
Great. Just feel it. The grown-up, you can do it inside. You can still hug that one. That little one made you survive. That one was so brave, the little one.
This ball is good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You're okay now. You're not in danger now.
It feels quite simple when you say it like that. Just to speak to her was brilliant. When Yuri said, you are a victim of severe abuse, just like that, bam. I was like, wow. I've never heard that. Never heard that. Giving me that 9-year-old analogy in a way who's angry. I think that is going to be, that's going to be a massive breakthrough for me. Of course, my childhood wasn't all doom and gloom. For that kid who was so angry and unhappy, there was one person who totally turned my life around. My teacher, Mr. Sidney Pigden. He would try to get me to concentrate on what you're doing. Anything you do, concentrate on doing it the very best you can, then when you stop, then you relax. Now I realise how important he was in my life. The first main imposing figure, male figure in my life who was trying to guide me on the right road. I remember when I met him again, it was really strange.
Hello, Ian. Long time no see.
Mr. Pigden. You're alive.
I'm alive, he says. How are you doing?
I can't believe it. Someone said you was dead.
As you see, I'm very much in, and I'm so glad you've done so well with yourself.
I don't know what to say. God, I can't believe it. I can't believe it. But Mr. Pigden went out his way. He went out his way. But he wanted to teach. And he probably wanted to teach because he wanted to find a student that he could change their lives. And it was me. I was the guy. I can't even tell you. Sometimes I think about him literally every day. I think about him every day. He gave me some self-worth. He made me feel like I was important. I don't know why I didn't tell Mr. Pigden about what was happening at home, but just having his encouragement really helped. To see how schools are trying to support children who are having the same difficulties that I had, I've come back to the place where I first met Mr. Pigden, my old primary school, Turnham Academy.
How are you? Good to see you, okay?
Richard Pigford is the deputy head.
It's this one it was. The teacher's desk was over here, in this corner.
Yeah.
The teacher's desk was in this corner. And I remember my desk was somewhere back here. And I used to do this thing. You know what I used to do? Should I actually show you what I used to do?
Yeah.
I used to be on the floor. I don't mind if my clothes get dirty. And I would do this.
During the lesson?
Yeah. I would do that during the lesson.
So we'd say that's dysregulated behaviour now. If you're behaving in a certain way, ultimately you have to cry for help. So if you're doing that, we're saying, come with us for a chat. So that's the pastoral leader, maybe myself. I'm taking you for a chat. Right, what's going on? Because that's not normal classroom behaviour.
Yeah.
It's not that it's not acceptable, because children bring things out in different ways. So that what's not acceptable to one child is perfectly acceptable to another. But that might be your way of regulating again. Some children need pressure, some children, everyone regulates in different ways. But that is not normal classroom behaviour. So we know that there is an additional need that we would need to address with you there. We're really lucky that we have an outstanding head of pastoral care, Mr. Alexander, who really works with the children. Mr. Alexander, Ian Wright. Always Mr. Alexander. It's Anthony's his first name. We're allowed to use it.
Look at Anthony's smile, man. How could you be naughty when this guy smile, man? Great to meet you, man.
Nice to meet you.
Absolutely pleasure, man. I'm so looking forward to speaking to you, man.
You too.
So what is it you actually do, Andy?
So the kids ask me that sometimes. They say, Alexander, what's your actual job? And I said, my job's just to make sure you guys are happy. But lots of circumstances mean that there are some things our kids don't get or can't get. And I feel like our job here, then, is to try and plug some of those gaps.
Have you seen the difference?
Yeah, definitely. And that's always a nice thing. We can't necessarily change their home situations. But what we can do is, while they're here, this is where we flood them with all of those positive things, all of those ideas that you can achieve, you can do this, you can do that. I'm not going to change, or we're not going to change everyone just because we do fantastic stuff at school. But my hope is that they'll be able to look back and say, because of the help I got here, that helped me to be able to do this. And that's the success. I might not get to see it in the next 10 years, but then 12 years down the line, I see them on the street and they're really happy and they're doing really well. And there's, even the smile to see you again, be like, oh, Mr. Alexander, and they remember you and you're like, yeah, that alone for me is like, yeah, you remember me.
My guy, my guy. I'm so proud of you. It's so important that we can try and reach kids that may be in these vulnerable environments and try to get them to understand what they're going through and what's happening. Catching the kids at a young age so they can deal with emotions so it doesn't fester. It's got to be a good thing.
Not every school has an Anthony. I can see how important he is for the kids at Turnham, like Mr. Pigden was for me. He passed away a few years ago now, but we made sure he was never forgotten.
In recognition of Sydney Charles Pigden for his dedicated service to the Lewisham community, World War II Spitfire pilot, teacher at Turnham School, Secretary, Lewisham Primary Schools, Football Association, and sports coach and mentor. See? He'd be proud of me how I read that. He's a great man.
School pastoral workers like Anthony now work together with social services. And if there are any concerns about a child, they're investigated. But this wasn't always the case. Growing up in the 70s, I wasn't the only one at home being hit. It was pretty common amongst my friends, and yet social workers never came to see us. I'm 56 now, 57, but I'm going to start lying about my age soon, Claudia. But all the guys and the girls, we kind of saw it as normal in around the 70s and 80s. Sociology professor Claudia Bernard started her career as a social worker in the 70s.
What was different then, unless you came to the attention of social services, then...
They're not going to find you?
They're not going to really find you. But even then, I would say, they weren't paying too much attention to women either.
Wow.
I think the difference, the focus was very much on the physical in the 70s. So, for example, if a woman couldn't show any bruises, then it wasn't perceived to be anything too serious. Wow. So unless she came in and crawled in on 2 broken legs, a black eye, and had bruises to show. So in terms of the emotional and the psychological impact and the sort of coercive control that can take place, that was not recognised then as something. It was a lot of the emphasis was on the physical.
So if they're not even really paying attention to women just because they can't see bruises or stuff like this, then that means that the children had no chance.
It was thought, well, if the children were in the other room or they didn't hear anything, so it doesn't matter. But it was really in the late 80s, early 90s that we started to pay attention to the impact on children living in that environment.
Yes, because like I say, I'm in the 50s now. Nobody got any kind of help. And a lot of my friends went on to do certain things, and a lot of my generation went on to do certain things, whether it was criminal activity, you know, beating their girlfriends up, you know what I mean? Whatever they doing, they went on to do all these things. I literally am baffled that at some stage nobody paid attention to the children and the effects it was having on the children. If I could change anything, I would want to be in the kind of environment where it was loving. I've got it now with my wife, my girls, my sons, everybody now. I'd have loved to have had that when I was younger. I'd love to have had that.
I didn't realise how much I'd like this. It's really cool.
I really appreciate what my family have got now. But there's lots of families out there who need a little bit more help. Greenwich Council have been running a pilot scheme called SafeCall for the last 2 years with families who have been dealing with issues of violence and aggression. They work with families for over 6 months to try to get to the root of the problem before it gets to crisis point. Social worker Tom Reed is one of the leaders of the scheme.
We're trying to get to know and work with families at that earlier point where a social worker might not say, you know, this is drastic, something's got to be done right away, this isn't safe, but where you can tell there probably is a problem brewing that could get worse with time. And what we do is we offer families a service at that point.
How do you identify the families in the first place?
This is often families that are getting referred to children's services, families where maybe teachers, health professionals are worried, maybe where the police has been called. And then they'll speak to somebody and they'll be able to ask, do you want to work on this?
Tom's taking me to meet a family who were referred to social services after incidents of domestic abuse. Amanda, Jason, and their 17-year-old daughter, Tasha, are coming to the end of their course with SafeCall.
We're having the same arguments round and round.
One of our goals was to communicate with our family. It's not about, oh, do this and the problem will go away.
Right.
That's not how it works.
If you just talk it through, if I can see that she's got a problem and I ask her what her problem is, we can sort the problem out before it turns into arguments. And I found that to be the best thing out of all of it. Was alcohol involved as well? Like, we both stopped drinking.
From your experience in the past, what were you expecting to happen?
If it was last year, it would have been a massive row, and the difference, like, it's just really good. Like, they don't argue no more.
A bit of talking is much better than a whole day of arguing. So it's the communication and having compassion for the other person. It's like you've got to try it, because I know she's struggling. I know things about her now from your group, from this SafeCall, that I didn't even know. And now I've sort of like got sympathy for that as well from her childhood. I know now what she been through.
I can turn to him and he ain't gonna shout at me. He ain't gonna make me feel bad because I'm feeling bad. He's gonna make me feel better, which is something he wouldn't have done before Safecore. And it's really hard for me to talk about this now because I could see what was happening to Tasha. You think, oh, you know, kids are upstairs in the bedroom, they can't hear. Yeah. Yes, they can. Yeah. They can hear you, they can see your body language because they're the ones that are really getting hurt.
Over the last 2 years, 140 families have taken part in the Safecore program, and 85% of those who completed it have said their family's life has improved. I wanted to speak to you about how it's been for you and what your problems have been.
I was angry, I was sad, I was just really confused. My head was all over the place. I felt very low. I felt abandoned. I distanced myself from everyone.
I remember when I was younger, it was really difficult to be around them. Some of the times they were really kind of violent, and then they would say horrible things, and I'd be really anxious.
I know. Yeah, like when they were arguing and stuff, they just forgot that I have feelings as well. Right. I'm a human being.
Yeah.
But if you saw them a year ago and then now, you just think there's massive change. And I'm really proud of them. They've done me proud. I feel like they've proved that they can do it right. They've proved that they can get this family back to the way it was, gained the bond, gained the trust of their kids, and they have.
That sounds good. That sounds good. Take it easy, everybody.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
My pleasure. See you again.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah, I want to find out how everything works out.
Oh, don't worry. It's going to be good.
I know it is.
Bye.
I know it will be. It's nice to be able to see a family who have had so many problems, and for them to come together and individually realise we've all got to play our part to try and keep the family together and move forward. She loves her parents. She obviously loves her parents, but the fact is, they care about her, man. They care about her. Thinking about me being a teenager, it's like, it's empty, bro. It's empty because I didn't have no guidance. I didn't have nobody that I thought cared about me. And I only thought about that today. Growing up around violence, it never leaves you. It changes you. I've never hit anyone in my family, but my experiences have left me with a lot of anger. And for me, it came out on the pitch. It's while I was playing football, I realised that I had major anger issues. That's when it really all magnified. The anger just spilled over. Just felt all the time that I was on edge. I felt like there was nothing, no consequences for me. And the shameful thing about it is I just lost it. Some of the times the way I acted was deplorable. It's disgraceful. I couldn't calm down. People they'd say, calm down, will you? What's wrong with you? I do regret the way the anger was and the way the redness could not be controlled. I regret it because there's a lot of good people I had around me that simply because of the anger, pushed them away. The terrible thing about domestic violence is that it can create a vicious cycle. And tragically, some people who experience abuse as children grow up to commit violence against their own families. I'm going to a place where some of these people can get help. It's a very sensitive thing I'm dealing with, but if somebody's willing to change and they've worked hard to try and change, then you have to try and help them as much as you can to change, for the good of others. The Hampton Trust, based in Southampton, run courses for people who are at risk of committing or have already committed domestic abuse.
Oh, Ian!
Ian. Nice to meet you.
How are you?
Good, come on through.
Vicky Gilroy helps run the programme.
We're a charity, okay, and we've been delivering direct perpetrator work in domestic abuse. There aren't many organisations that do what we do and work on that side of domestic abuse. We see a lot of behaviours that individuals don't recognise as abuse, and that's our job then to help assist them with understanding that, because we know that every 6 seconds a woman is assaulted within this country. 6 seconds, and that's the assault. So that's not even taking into account the coercive controlling behaviours. We're working through giving perpetrators skills and strategies that they can put in place at home within that family environment, so that it reduces the exposure of a child to that abuse.
Yes.
And if we can reduce that exposure for that child, then they're going to have better life chances moving forward. Right, should we go and meet this person
Yes,
now? Yeah?
yes,
Okay,
of course, yeah.
follow me.
Wes, who has a history of violence, applied to go on the course himself. You got children?
I've got one. I've just had a little boy, 9 months old he is. That's just why I self-referred myself. As soon as my son was born, I changed my life. When we first started this course, we were given a booklet to go home and sit with our partners and say, look,
this is it.
This is it. This is what I'm going to be doing. These are the things that we've been told to use. These are the tools. If I feel like I'm getting angry or I'm getting agitated or, you know, something's going to happen, I can say to you, right, time out. I'm going to go for a walk, you know? And then it's a case of trying to get yourself back together, a case of your thought process calming down, everything else, going through all that emotion. It's a case of, this is what I need, this is structure to me.
What's been the most difficult part for you in this process, do you think, Wes?
Admitting that I've been abusive. With my missus, it's the body language, isn't it? It's the assertive, negative body language, do you know what I mean? Like, I would be, if she was up in my face, I would be then over her, like, what are you talking about, you know? And you don't realise that's abuse, do you know what I mean? And I never knew that, like, pointing, fuck.
Intimidating.
It is intimidating, it's all abuse, isn't it? So it was a case of, when you get here and you see that on the board and you're talking about it and you go through it, it's a case of, shit, maybe I was abusive.
I know it happens really quick, but what's the thinking about that?
The thinking is, you want to hurt that person, don't you? If I'm honest, you do want to really hurt that person. Instead of taking out an arrow, you start hitting objects, like walls, doors, wardrobes, or grabbing a cup, smashing it, and trying to make yourself feel better.
We're working with Wes to understand the impact that has, which that's an ongoing process. So
Mine's the empathy, isn't it? It was a lack of empathy. I didn't understand why people would cry all the time, or they'd show emotion all the time. Whatever
If they did, you didn't care?
I didn't care. I was brought up with just my mum. My mum's ex-partner, he beat me from the age of 5 until I was 14. But he used to take it out of my mum more. And then, like, I'd go to school, my mum would get it.
Did you know that was going to happen when you left school?
Yeah, and I didn't want to go to school. I played up so much so I didn't have to go to school. But then when I went to school, I became more angry, more anxious, and I was the disruptive one of the class. The one I always remember, Ian, is the one where Dad dragged my mum into the bedroom and he picked up a crash helmet from his motorbike and he beat her. And I could hear my mum's face crunching on that crash helmet. And if it wasn't for my uncle running in, my mum would have been dead. And that's why I didn't want my son to go through that scenario. That's why I'm here. What Hampton Trust are trying to help us do, they're trying to help us process our thoughts, our way of thinking, not just that, our emotions and everything. They give you everything that you need. That's what the tools are for. All I can say to people out there, truthfully, is just get help. Don't deny it. There's no shame, there's no blame, there's no nothing from anyone. It's to help you or your children or your girlfriend or your wife.
Wes, what can I say, man? But unbelievable the way you're changing it around for yourself to have a better life. I can't thank you both enough. It was really good to meet him. When you think of people in this scenario, whether you call abuser, you know what I mean? Abuser could look like me, could look like you, could look like Wes. The fact is being able to understand and recognise that you need help. Through the grace of God, the Hampton Trust is here. And, you know, they've got him on the programme and it seems to be, it's working. What we have to do is we have to give these people the opportunity to change. We have to break the cycle. The cycle of abuse, it keeps coming up. But it's not just passed on by the perpetrator. In my case, it was my mum, the victim of violence herself, who also passed the abuse down to me. I'm going to see Naomi. Like my mum, Naomi was abused by her partner and in turn took it out on her daughter. But unlike my mum, she found support and managed to break the cycle.
Hello.
What's happening, Naomi?
Hello.
What you saying, though?
I'm good.
Nice tooth.
With my ex-partner, met him when I was 13, but when we were 18, that the physical abuse really started. I turned 19 and found out I was pregnant with my daughter.
And people will say to you, why didn't you just leave?
Yeah.
Why didn't you?
Yeah, there are a few reasons, and it is like because first thing is, where are you going? Do you know what I mean? Especially if you haven't got much money, do you know what I mean? Like, it's not like you can just go and buy a house in a whole other borough and just get up in the middle of the night and go. And I didn't want my daughter to grow up without a dad. I wanted to have that family, whichever way that family looked. I wanted her to be able to go to school and say, yeah, she's got a mum and a dad at home. Didn't matter if mum was broken and dad's broken. You've got parents, do you know what I mean?
Wow.
So that kept me there.
How is your daughter in respects of how she is? Did she remember it when did you talk to her about it?
Yeah. So my daughter said she remembers one time in particular where he was strangling me, had me over the banister and he was threatening to kill me. And she said that she was in a little hiding place and she said she could hear him and she really believed that he was going to kill me, and she just come running out like a little hero and hung onto his leg and was like, leave my mum, like, you know what I mean? And then I'd be like, you know, hugging her and like, you know, saying to her it's all right. And I always used to promise her that I'm gonna get us out of it, do you know what I mean? But I just didn't know how. I just went down that whole disruptive route of drinking heavily. I was going out almost every night. I was shouting at my daughter as well. You get me? Like, so it's like I'd look at her and I'd see her sometimes, she looks like her dad. She got mannerisms like her dad. And I was just so angry and aggressive and constantly
towards
shouting.
her as well?
Yeah, towards her, just over silly things. If she done something that annoyed me or weren't listening and stuff, like, I just used to feel angry, so I'd shout. My thing used to be shouting, screaming, like, you know. Now when I look back, a lot of that was because that's how I seen her dad, you know what I mean?
What made you change? Because, like, even my mum, you know, I tried to speak about it. She never changed. She never done it. What made you change? What made you, what was it?
Yeah, it was knowing that if I had continued on that path, I would have only have got worse. So the drinking would have got worse. The relationship between me and my daughter would have got worse. And I believe that if I didn't go for the therapy, then I would never been able to start the healing process.
Yeah. Thinking about my mum, when I think of your situation, it makes me feel it's very difficult, you know, to want, because I just want to help, man. I just want to help her.
Yeah.
Because I know, because there's times I'll be sitting in her and she'd just start crying. You know, when we was young, she'd just start crying. Yeah. So there's obviously some pain and everything in there. I'm slowly and surely forgiving her simply because, you know, I have to accept that whatever her journey was, she's probably not been able to deal with that like I've been able to deal with it. And that was very difficult to take, but now it's getting easier, especially speaking to you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Honestly, it's amazing to speak to you. You're so brave and strong, man.
Thank you.
Take it easy, take it easy. I'll see you again, huh?
Naomi's really helped me understand the situation from my mum's point of view. I'm so grateful to her. It's been quite an eye-opener. What I've taken from it more than anything else, I think, is my mum and what my mum went through. And the fact that she was a victim of the circumstances she was in. It's a lot easier for me to think about and deal with than before. But what I've realised, I forgive, I can forgive. I have to find it in myself because I've got to move on. I've got for my own kids and I've got to try and make sure that they're okay. I've learned now that my story is just one of many. There's 1 million kids in the UK living with domestic abuse. 1 million kids. That has to change.
I've seen a lot of change, been through a lot of pain. Some things are not the same as they were a year ago, but all will be okay. I move on each and every day. The past is where it stays, way back a year ago. I've changed for the better this time. I thought I would never be fine. I strive just to say I'm alright, and for the first time in a long time I'm alright. I've seen a lot of change, been through